Clap. Oh, we don't. Do we?
I don't think we need to.
That?
No, because if it's recording locally for both of us, I'm not recording audio. Whoa.
Oh, me neither.
Should we? As like backup?
You know what I'm gonna say.
You're gonna say no, right?
I'm gonna say no because I have a very fuck it attitude, but that sometimes gets me in hot water. And speaking of water, I need you to know that I currently have 3 containers of fluid around me.
Ayo.
Because this is how obsessed I am with hydrating. But they are all different types of water.
So is it like one sparkling water, one is alkaline, and one is just regular? Ring a ding ding. She got it. I
don't know what your prize is yet, but oh no, I do. It just came to me.
Uh-oh.
I know where you live. I'll just send it. You'll know. You'll know who it's from.
Is it just a package of LaCroix?
No, you'll. Oh, better.
Oh,
you'll know where it's from. This one doesn't have a return address, and it's hissing.
Are you gonna go get me a box of snakes? Or like a
maybe
case of helium? I don't know. Just for me to try out. Welcome to the Peony, everybody.
Oh yes, hello, welcome. I was devising how we can do a funny voices episode. Maybe we'll do a whole episode. No, we should not do a whole episode on helium. That would be so fucking annoying to listen to. 45 minutes of that shit.
I could just pitch us up and make it sound like we're on helium if we wanted to do that. Or we could get some balloons. Our call, I guess.
We should do a cover of that Chipmunks famous holiday song, but do a Peony Eyes version.
That one?
Yes.
Yeah,
but we do it to like encapsulate this podcast. We make our remix, and we record it, you pitch us, and that's our single. Now we're into music. Wow.
What?
Wow. She's full of ideas. Tough on the execution.
You're pretty good on the execution. Like, it's fine. We'll get there, you know? We'll be scrappy. We'll figure it out. We'll get it.
I have to find a way to hide my self-view. Oh no, I made myself bigger. Shit. Listeners, we're trying out a new podcast recording technology where we're doing video, we're doing sound, something new. Anyway, grandma over here is really struggling. I shouldn't say that. There are some grandmas that are better at technology than I am.
If you hit
struggling.
The plus sign on my video, it'll make me bigger. You will still be there, but I just did that on my end. And so you're bigger and I'm smaller and I cannot move it to the other side. This is all so weird. All right.
Okay, obviously we have issues with control. Which is great because we're talking about you this episode and your obsession with control.
Me? Okay, I thought you meant the listeners. I was like,
yes,
we are talking about the listeners. What are we talking about?
We're talking about you. This episode is about you. I'm putting you in the hot seat. Now you have to be a guest.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
I'm here. Hello.
I had so much fun at our last episode.
Yay!
But it was uncomfortable. Like, yeah. I remember being, like, saying the things and blah, 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 and how I felt, and then how I came across in the recording. I sound so much cooler in the recording. So whatever you did with your sound engineering, thank you. You made me
said
sound
all of
so
those things.
chill. I did, but sometimes when I speak, I think I speak faster than I do is a thing.
Okay.
And when I like go off on something and I just like talk a lot, but I'm realizing now when I'm hearing back, I'm not doing that. And so I'm wondering, I just had like a little epiphany, like, what if my mind has to translate things first? Because English isn't my first language. And like my mind is transferring them faster than my mouth is.
Maybe. Well, I don't know if there's probably science behind this. I do think we think faster than we can speak because sometimes you can like jump more like thought bubbles. So that might be part of it. And I think we get so in our heads about how quickly we're speaking or how slowly we're speaking that it feels much worse than it actually is. Yeah, because that was your normal pace. I didn't slow you down or speed you up or anything like that. I think I just like cut out ums here and there, and that's about
Thank God.
it. You're welcome.
Thank God.
Cool. Thank you. I will cut that out.
Sorry.
Amazing.
You can't handle the truth. I really wish. Have you ever seen those Vanity Fair interviews where they hook celebrities up to a lie detector test and like have them do an interview? Okay, obviously I'm watching the more like fringe interview shows, I guess. But they like hook them up to a lie detector test and ask them questions. Mm-hmm. And like Shawn Mendes did it, and his was adorable. He was so he was truthful the whole time. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But he was like so stressed out about like triggering it, and so he was like, I gotta be extra truthful. Like he was just himself. Anyway. That's what I feel like we gotta do. That's what I want to do. I want to hook you up. I want to put you in like a 1940s noir interrogation. After you made me feel so welcome and warm and cozy, I want to put you in an environment of high stress,
like a literal hot seat.
Instinct. Yeah.
Whew, okay. I guess metaphorically you can do that. I can pretend to be in that. Like if I close my eyes for a second, take a few deep breaths, I'll just pretend that like that's what's happening. If that is helpful for you.
I would hope that you would accomplish that, considering you're an actor and we're here today to talk about you being an actor and how you became an actor.
Whee! Yeah, here we are to talk about it.
Listeners of the pod, or since most listeners are friends anyway, will probably know Lex's story or have heard on a prior episode some of your experiences in the theater, you know, as a parrot, whatever. I will never forget that story. So this love of yours goes back a long time.
It does, yeah.
Take me back to the beginning.
Take it way back. So it's sort of like this amalgamation of moments. There are two that stand out the most of where I was like, that's really what I want to do. And it was... And I can't remember which one came first, chicken or the egg situation. But so the first one that I remember was, or I think I remember, whatever. What am I saying? Anyway, one of the moments was in like first grade. I went, it was an assembly. The whole class went. I remember sitting in like the second or third row on the floor, crisscross applesauce, and watching I think it was like the 7th or 8th graders do Snow White. And it was very slapdash. Like the backdrop was made out of construction paper and like painted on. And I just remember the person playing the evil queen and the mirror, like those two people were having so much fun. They were so goofy. And I just remember sitting there like, you can do that? Like you can tell story, like you can dress up and tell stories in front of people? That seems really cool. And then my aunt, I was visiting my aunt and my uncle, and they had me watch a video of my cousin Matthew playing Michael in Peter Pan. And we were watching it, and I just remember seeing him and thinking like, that's not how my cousin behaves. Like, that's not my cousin. That's weird. Like, oh, you can just play make-believe all of the time and pretend to be somebody else. And so those two moments in particular, I think, are what interested me in that. Because I remember like going to my mom and being like, you can do this thing. And she's like, yes, it's called theater and it's called acting. Do you want to do that? And I think right around that time, there was a school play. It was first graders. There was a school play, and I think it was a play about like the American Revolution or something. And so I remember like getting to do that and being really excited to like stand on a stage and recite some lines and sing like "This Land Is Our Land" or whatever dumb thing they have you do in first grade. So that's sort of when it started, was like this obsession with getting to tell stories, be in front of people. Because as a little kid, I was totally a ham. Like, I would make up songs and like make my family watch me sing them and do little dances and be like, I came up with a dance.
Do you remember any?
I think I had one. It was like, I was like maybe 4, and I was like, I came up with a dance and a song. It's 1 foot, 2 foot, no foot. And I like I don't know what, I like held myself up between like 2 chairs and like dangled my feet above the ground. Just chopped my own feet off.
Hacking knees.
No feet! So it was like stupid shit, you know, that like little kids make up, and you're like, what is happening? That's not a song. That's not a dance. What are you doing? So stuff like that. Like, I would come up with things. I remember being like 8 years old and making my cousin Matthew do a puppet show with me, and it was 3 little pigs, and I like made everything, like made all the little finger puppets, made all of the background, like all of it. There might be a video somewhere out there that my aunt took. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So somewhere that might exist.
Squad, we must find it.
Assemble. Yeah, so it was just like this obsession with telling stories and pretending to be somebody else and playing make-believe. Because I think that's, for a lot of little kids, like, that's your favorite thing to do, is, you know, to pretend to be an explorer. And it was like, oh, I could pretend to do those things and also force people to watch me to do it, I guess. Like, very, I wanted to be the center of attention, I think. And then as I got older, I like, it became less about that and became more about, like, especially now as an adult, it's very much about, like, I want to tell stories so that way people don't feel alone. I want to tell stories so people know that they're not strange or unusual or weird, that there are other people who know what that feeling is like, that understand that experience. So it's become a lot more personal and a lot more tangible, I think, other than just, watch me, Mom, I'm gonna do something. But yeah, that was those 2 moments, like seeing a bunch of 8th graders perform and then seeing my cousin pretend to be Michael from Peter Pan. And I was like, oh, that seems really fun. I want to do that.
That's amazing. I know you said your mom was the person that was like, that's theater, that's acting. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do that? Mm-hmm. I know that your mom was a huge source of support for you.
Yeah.
And you've sprinkled a few nuggets on me that had me clutching my heart. Would you feel comfortable sharing some of the things she said to you, maybe when you were feeling low? Or
she really was like so supportive, because I have friends who've been in the situation where, you know, you want to pursue the arts, and a lot of times your parents or the people in your family are not on your side, right? And I think a lot of times it comes out of fear, because I do have people in my family who are like, for a long time, we're like, no, you need to have a regular job. Like, you can do that as a passion, but it cannot be the thing that pays your bills because it's unreliable, which, like, spoiler alert, any career is unreliable. Like, nothing is guaranteed. That's the biggest thing that I've learned through the pandemic and just through life in general. But my mom was never that way. She was always incredibly supportive. She was always like, okay, do you want to do the school play? Like, let's get you involved in stuff. And I think for me, the things that stood out most about her, or some of the conversations I remember. So there was, I learned how to take rejection as an actor from just the way my mom coached me through that as a kid. So there are two stories in particular. So the first one was, we were doing Little Orphan Annie at school, and I'm a little under 5'7" now. I've been this height since I was like 13. I was always a really tall kid. Like, my pediatrician thought I was going to be like 6'1", 6'2". Ha ha ha, no. But I was always a very tall kid, and always I'm built a little bit I'm plus size, mid size. I've always been built a little bit more heavy set. And so growing up as a kid, when you're taller than everybody and you're doing theater, oh, we have adults in this play. Guess who's going to play the adult? Like, you're always going to play the adult. And it's like, I'm a 12-year-old child. Like, why am I playing an adult? Anyway, so we were doing Little Orphan Annie, and I just wanted to be an orphan. Like, I did not want to be an adult. I didn't want to be anybody else. I just wanted to be an orphan in the background. That was it. Because I wanted to be like cute and sing the cute songs. I wanted to sing Hard Knocks Life so badly. And I didn't get the part of orphan number 4 or whatever. I was cast as Miss Hannigan. And I knew, because like during rehearsals, I kept being asked to read that part. And I was like, oh no, I think I'm going to have to play her. And I didn't want to play her because she's mean and she's like kind of like, I think as a little kid, you're like, she's mean and ugly and a villain. I don't want to be a bad guy. And so I got cast as that, and I was like, no. And I was really upset, and I came home upset, crying. My mom was like, okay, all right. And she went to like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster or something, and she rented Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner and Alan Rickman. And she brought it home.
Sorry.
I know. She brought it home. And she was like, okay, we're going to watch this. I want you to pay attention to Alan Rickman. He plays the sheriff of Nottingham, and just watch what he does. And so we watched it, and she was like, it's not a good movie, but watch him because he's playing the bad guy, but he's having a lot of fun. And we watched it, and I was like, oh, he's having a really good time. And she's like, right. And so then we watched Annie with Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett played Mrs. Hannigan.
Oh my God, yes.
And so we watched it, and she was like, yes, Miss Hannigan is the villain, but look at how funny she is. Look at how much fun she's having. And then we watched like the Carol Burnett show, and my mom, that was kind of my introduction into the Carol Burnett and comedy, really. And so her thing during that was very much like, look, like you have the chance to really have a lot of fun with this character. I know it's not interesting, but like you can have so much fun with this. And I just like during the rehearsal process, the other thing she told me, she was like, look, like make the show about Miss Hannigan, like just kick ass at it, steal the show. That was kind of her thing. She was like, just steal the show, just have fun. And I remember, and she was also like, you know, you also need to know your lines, and you need to know everybody else's lines too. Like if somebody messes up their line or skips something, like I think she compared it, because my mom used to be a musician. She was a cellist for a really long time, and she was always like, you need to know the music well enough that if somebody misses something or the conductor is going too fast or too slow, you can follow along and you can adapt. Or, you know, if your fellow cellist, their string breaks, you know the part well enough that you can carry it on your own. Same thing with acting. And I was like, okay, so we would spend hours like going through the scenes, going through the lines. And I think at the end of that, I knew that play backwards, forwards, and inside out. And there was a part where my teacher actually, or our director, stepped in as like a security guard. There's a scene where a guard or somebody comes to ask Miss Hannigan about the orphans, and the kid who played the part got sick. So my teacher stepped in, and he didn't know the lines. And so I had to improvise and like make the scene make sense. And I had to basically like feed him his lines and also say my own. I remember like that moment, because that was the first time that had ever happened to me. And I'm like 12 years old, and I'm just like, oh, this is insane. What's happening?
How did you pull that off?
It was because my mom had like coached me so much.
No, I know, but literally, you just kind of,
I don't know. It was like I was like a possessed person, I think. Because I knew what I had to say, right? Like I knew the important stuff that I needed to communicate. So instead of him asking me like, well, where are the orphans? And me being like, I don't know, officer. Me just being like, I don't know where the orphans are, officer. Like just saying both lines and kind of mushing them into one. And I think that was the first time on stage where I felt like totally alive because you're so present in those moments. And it's something that a lot of my acting teachers have talked about is like mistakes on stage. That's where magic happens because you have to, in that moment, get so focused in on what's happening just to try to keep things on the rails. Which is why I love...
it's not like movies where you can take take after take after take.
Exactly. And that's why I love live theater, because if something goes wrong, it is phenomenal in a lot of, like, most of the time, it's absolutely amazing. Really quickly, one of my favorite mistakes on stage that I ever saw was in high school. I saw a production of Into the Woods, and it's the scene where the two princes come out and they like sing their song, and they had the two princes like run and then do like a little leap onto the stage. And as they did the leap, one of the princes hadn't pinned his wig down and his wig went flying off. And the other prince turned to him to say something. And the first prince who lost his wig just like put his hands on his head and was like, and the other guy just turned his back to him and just went and like gave the first prince time to pick up his wig, dust it off in like a princely fashion, put it back on, adjust it, and then when he was ready, he just went, and it was so funny. Like, the audience lost their goddamn minds. And at the end of the play, I went up to one of the princes and I was like, that moment was so funny. I don't know how you guys rehearsed that. That was wonderful. And they were like, oh, we didn't rehearse that. That was a mistake. That was not supposed to happen. Like, but it was so fun that we're kind of like, how do we make that happen every single time? And you find those moments in rehearsals sometimes or in a live show. And if it's so good and it really like lands, and if you can recreate it in an authentic way, sometimes people will continue to pull those things in because it's so funny. Like, those moments are where it's really alive and people get so connected, and you can usually feel people in the audience like literally lean forward in their seats because they're like, oh, holy shit, this is amazing.
Question.
Yes.
Because those moments bring you or make you feel the most alive, is that why you got into improv?
Yes. Yeah. Because that's what improv is. And I think the other great thing about improv is it works a muscle in a different way. A very similar like acting muscle, but different, because improv gets you out of your head. Because you can't be in your head. If you're too in your head, then you're not present. And if you're not present, you can't play the game. So, and if you're trying to like think ahead, if you're trying to like plot out the way an improv scene is going to go, you've already lost. And when you try to control a scene in improv, it gets really uncomfortable. Now that's to say, I think when you become a more skilled improviser, if you're improvising with like somebody who's brand new or somebody who's like going off the rails in too far of a direction, once you know the rules of improv, you can call that out and you can try to control it in a way that isn't about you. It's about the scene and it's about what's happening on stage, versus like a lot of times people try to control the scene because they want to be funny. They want to be the one who has the punchline. Like, and when you try to do that, that's where scenes fall flat. Because you're making it about yourself. You're not making it about the other person that you're sharing or other people that you're sharing the stage with. But I think improv, that's probably one of my like biggest pieces of advice for anybody who wants to be an actor. If you are not already taking improv, you really should, because it gets you out of your head, especially if you're somebody who struggles with that like I do. It gets you out of your head. It gets you super present. It works that acting muscle in a different way. And it's also really great for if you're, I haven't used it yet, but it's really great for commercial auditions, because sometimes you'll go in to audition for a commercial and yes, they have a script, but they may ask you like, okay, you as Julia, let's say you're the one who works at PetSmart, and I come up to you and I ask you about dog food. What are you going to tell me? Like, sometimes they will throw curveballs at you, and so you have to be able to improvise. And I think it just makes you more comfortable because you get very aware of your body in improv, because there are certain rules to follow of like interact with the space, right? Pretend that you are changing a tire. And so you're like, what does my body do when I change a tire? So you get more aware of your surroundings and your physicality. Anyway, improv is great. So, but that's to say, I think like that scene with my teacher, I relied pretty heavily on improv, but I hadn't done improv yet. But that's what it was. When you know the scene and you know the story well enough, and you know, like, here are the key pieces of information, you can kind of fly by the seat of your pants a little bit. So if you ever have somebody walk on stage who like doesn't know their lines, you can fudge it a little bit. So I think that moment of like, I know you got a part that you're not excited about, but you still get to tell a story. You still get to be in a play. Let's find a way to like get you to love it. And that honestly was the thing that made me love playing villains, because they are so fun. Like, and a lot of times they are the ones with the best comedy, and you can just really like go super big with them, especially in a musical. And I think for like 3 months after the play, I would have little kids like that, because all of the classes would come and see the play. I would have like kindergartners through like third graders running up to me and being like, "We love you, Miss Hannigan," and they would like run away screaming when I would look at them. Like, it was fun. Like, you kind of
first fans,
my first fans and my first haters. But you get to like kind of leave that impression a little bit, which is really fun if you just lean into it. So there was definitely that moment, and then maybe a year or two after that, the next play that we did was Peter Pan, and I was excited to do it because like my cousin had done it, right? And like that was the play that got me into theater, and I was so excited, and I wanted to play Tiger Lily so badly. And looking back on it, like, no, little white girl, you should not be playing Tiger Lily. So there's that now. But as a kid, like I wanted, she's so fucking cool. Like, she's badass. She doesn't put up with Peter Pan's bullshit. She fights pirates. Like, hell yeah. And I really wanted to be her. And I got cast as the understudy. And
was this the bird incident?
The bird incident?
Wasn't the bird costume Peter Pan?
No, the bird costume was Jolly Roger and the Pirate Queen. Also included pirates. That was in high school. Whole different can of worms. But yeah, I really wanted to be Tiger Lily, didn't get the part. I was cast as the narrator, and I was like, the narrator's not even on stage. What? But it was like, yeah, but you can read the lines and not sound like a robot, so you're gonna be the narrator. It's like, okay. But I really wanted to be Tiger Lily, and then I was cast as the understudy. So for anyone who's not familiar, understudy is basically you're the backup. So you know all the lines, you know all the songs, you know all the moves, you know all of the part, and
you're just waiting for your moment.
Just waiting. And if something happens to the main actor who's playing that role, you step in and you fill it, and maybe you do like a rehearsal or two, but you should be able to like step in and fill that role on a moment's notice.
Did you pull a Tanya Harding?
I did not. No. Maybe sort of, but no. So what happened was there was a girl cast as Tiger Lily, and my school had a track system, which meant that it was, looking back, I'm like, how did this ever work? So what that meant was like for the first 6 weeks of school, everybody was at school together. Then the track system would kick in, and you were either on A, B, or C. And if you were on A, you would go off for 3 weeks, come back to school, and then the B students would go on a break for 3 weeks, come back. So there was always like this weird rotation. And I think it was because we just had too many students So it was a way to keep class levels kind of normal. But what that meant is you had these random breaks throughout the school year. And so I wound up going on break and I went to visit family. And I told my teacher, I was like, if anything happens and you need me to come back and be Tiger Lily, like, you just call my mom and she will come and get me. I want to be her. I'm super dedicated. Yay. He didn't do that. The girl who had initially been cast wound up quitting, and then somebody else got the part. So now I was somebody else's understudy. And I was just like, wait, what? So I came back furious.
Then you Kerrigan'd her.
No, sort of. I didn't. I'll get to it. But so we were at rehearsal, and it was like maybe a week or two before the play is about to go up, and the girl who played Tiger Lily didn't show up. And we're in rehearsal, and I was like, I'll do it. And so I got up there, and I knew the part, I knew everything, and I like sang my butt off. I like did it. I went big. I was like, fuck it, I'm going balls to the wall because this might be the only time I ever get for it. And afterwards, like, all of my friends were like, oh my God, why are you playing Tiger Lily? You should be playing Tiger Lily, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't ever get to, like, it was it. That was all I got was the rehearsal. But it was like, it was enough that I was like, okay, I know that I like did a really good job because I was able to step into that, do what I needed to do, and impress people. So, ha 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 ha, in your face. So not really Tanya Harding, but like, had my little moment of glory. But before we got to that point, like when I found out that
Pump the brakes.
Okay.
I need to know, what was your pettiest moment as an actor?
My pettiest moment as an actor.
Pettiest moment.
Yeah. Okay. So this was in college. And I was taking a Shakespeare class or Chekhov class. I can't remember which one. I was taking a class and we needed to rehearse outside of class. And one of the things that we could do is reserve rooms for rehearsals. And so I like made a bunch of reservations for rehearsals for my class. And I let everybody know, like I sent an email out and I was like, here are all these reservations. Like, if you guys ever want to meet up, we can work on our scenes together, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what our teacher encouraged us to do. And that's what you should be doing. Like, you should be rehearsing with your scene partners and your class outside of the classroom. And nobody showed up. Nobody was showing up, like, ever. And I think I had like one more reservation left. And so then the class before that reservation, in the middle, like at the start of class, I was just like, FYI, I've had like 8 reservations. I have one left. Of this previous 7, nobody's shown up. Everybody talked about how much we wanted to do this and nobody's bothered to show up. I've like sent you emails. I've sent you reminders. I guess nobody gives a shit. And like was just kind of an asshole about it. And then the next rehearsal, I think everybody showed up. But
you are giving me Capricorn, honey.
I was so mad. I was like, you guys said, I was like, if I do this thing, will people show up? Yeah, we'll show up. Nobody fucking showed up. And I was like, all right, guess y'all don't give a fuck. Like, I will cancel this reservation. And I think I ended it with like, I'll be there at Sunday at 3 p.m. Will you? And like left it at that. And people were like, and people showed up. So that worked. I think that was probably, I don't know if that was petty or just like the most aggressively direct I've ever been as an actor. I was just annoyed like at that time. And now I'm like, it was college. Everybody was fucking exhausted all the time. Like,
what was that like though when they got there? What was the dynamic like?
Yeah, I think it was, from what I remember, people were just like, okay, like, what do we want to work on? Like, it wasn't, I don't remember people being like, okay, well, we're here now. Like, people were like, hey, like, yeah, we're here to do the work. Like, we do take this seriously. So I think it was just like, I think it's one of those things, like, I look back at that moment and I'm like, good on me for calling people out. I think I could have done it a little bit better, but at the same time, it was like, it was college. Everybody was so fucking busy all the time. Like, people weren't just like coming to class, right? People had jobs, people had other things that they were doing. But I do think, like, you do have to prioritize those things. Like, we're here to study this thing, this art. Are you going to put in the work outside of class? Or are we going to show up the day we're supposed to do this, like, perform this scene, and nobody fucking knows their lines and nobody fucking knows what they're doing because we haven't met outside of class? Like, so for me, that's where I was pretty serious about it. I was like, if you guys just want to show up and like fall on your ass when we go to do this scene, that's fine. I'm not. I know my part. I know what I need to do. Do you? Like, that was sort of where I was coming at it from. And I do think, like, that's something that I learned very much from my mom, was know your shit, show up, do the work, like, don't fuck around. Have fun, obviously, but don't fuck around with it. And that was like, so when I didn't get the part of Tiger Lily initially, I came home and was like crying. I was in tears. I was so sad. I was like really pissed off about it. And she was like, and it wasn't a cruel conversation, but she was like, do you want to do this anymore? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, do you want to do this anymore? Like, are you having fun? Are you still enjoying this? And I was like, well, yeah, of course I want to do it. She's like, okay, then go learn your lines. Like, she was basically, in a very kind way, was like, look, you can be sad and angry about it, but you gotta let it go. You like feel your feelings now, but fucking let it go. Do not bring that energy into the rehearsal space. Don't hold it against the other person who got the part you wanted. Don't be an asshole about it. Like, just, you're not always going to get the parts that you want. And she was like, I would be surprised if you ever get the parts you want. Like, and not as you're not talented enough, but just as like, that's how the world works. Like, that's how casting works. And hopefully you do. And especially like as you get older, like hopefully you start to get the parts that you go for, but you're still learning. And I think for her, she was also like, you know, you are one of the stronger actors in your class. So think about it in a way of like, maybe your teacher is doing this to give other kids the opportunity to really step into it, right? To like really step into their moment, to get to experience what it's like to be that character or whatever. Like, it's not, again, it's not always about you. And sometimes it's about what's better for the whole production. And it was very much it was a moment where I really learned, as an actor in any production, any film, it's your responsibility to take care of the other people in your cast, to help support the other people that you're with. And that's not to say, like, if you get rejected or you don't get the part that you want, like, I'm not saying don't feel those feelings, because it sucks. Like, you're allowed to be really sad and upset about that. But again, don't bring it into the room. Don't bring it into the production, because it's not helpful for anybody. And it can be really detrimental to yourself and to everybody else. So she just really taught me to like how to take rejection with grace as an artist, because especially as an actor, you are going to face it all of the time. And it could be because it could be from anything. It could be because you're too tall, you're too short, you're whatever those things, you're not the right age range. And it can also be something as simple as like I know this happens a lot in TV and film, like they've already cast your character's love interest and they really, really like you and you'd be perfect for the part. But if they put you and that other person next to each other, you look like siblings, right? Like, you can't do that. No, we're not going to do that. Or they want something a little bit different than you. And that part fucking sucks, because those things are outside of your control, right? But it doesn't mean that you're not talented. It doesn't mean that you're not a hard worker. It doesn't mean that you're not good at what you do. It just means that for whatever reason, you weren't right for that part. So then when you do get cast, like, do your shit, do the work, prove that like you are somebody that people enjoy working with, and you'll continue to get work. I think that was like the biggest thing that my mom really instilled in me, was even if you get rejected, you are still worth being on that stage. Like, you still have talent, you still have a lot to offer. Just don't be an asshole about the rejection. Like, it is what it is. And if you really love it, and if it's really fun, keep doing it. Keep having fun with it. And the moment it stops being fun and it stops giving you any kind of joy, maybe it's time to find something else. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
You just hit me with a lot of information.
I did.
A lot of information. So here's my question to you. What are your thoughts on the current casting climate in the industry? Or the current climate of casting, whichever way you want to phrase that. Is it still as fucked up?
I think it is. And this is more from my experience talking to friends who are in casting, friends who are auditioning. Like, I think it is getting better. It's this weird thing where it's like, we are getting to see more diverse storytelling, right? Like, we are finally getting like an predominantly Asian cast for a superhero film. We have Black Panther. Like, I went straight to Marvel, but we're starting to see more diversity in a lot of storytelling, which is wonderful. The caveat to that is sometimes what you see is sort of like the token Black guy, the token Asian woman. Like
the cast of Eternals.
I haven't seen Eternals yet, but
I think they did a great job of checking all of the boxes.
Yeah. So, and I think for that, like, I'm not familiar with the comics. I'm not familiar with the story. I know it's been getting wonderful reviews, and I think the criticism I've seen from a few comic fans that I thought was like, honestly, it could be gayer. And I'm like, great. But I've also seen criticism from people who, and I don't know if they are fans of the film or not, but some people feel like, oh, this was them going through the list of like, okay, we've got a person of color here, here, and here, and then we've got gay representation. So it's like, is it coming? I guess the biggest thing is it coming from an authentic place, right?
Yeah.
Like, are people really interested in casting non-white actors because they genuinely want to show, like, this is what living in Los Angeles looks like, right? Like, one of my biggest problems with the show Girls was that it's set in New York, but like all of your cast is white. And when you do have people of color, they're sort of there as like the magical Negro or the token Black guy, right? And I think there is a scene where Donald Glover's character is like, are you, like, he kind of calls it out a little bit. So it's like Lena Dunham was aware of what was happening, but I don't think it ever really got fixed. So stuff like that.
I love him so much.
He's great. I love him. But those things where it's like, are you casting someone because you genuinely are like, this is the right person and it should be a person of color, or are you doing it to check a box so that way you can say like, look at how diverse our casting is? And it's like, okay, well, what about your crew? What about your director? What about the people in the casting room? Like, where
the director is an Asian woman
for Eternals?
It's Chloe
Dope.
Zhao, same director of Nomadland.
Yeah. I really need to see it. So like that I think is really important, right? But sometimes you're seeing things and it's like the entire crew is white, and it's so I think it is getting better, but I think it's still like people of color and people of different abilities and people of different body sizes are having to fight to be in those spaces.
Yeah.
Tooth and nail. Like, I don't think that fight has really changed. I think what's happening now is because of social media, those issues are getting called out and they are getting noticed more because there's a platform where people can access that, right? Like, I was thinking about the Me Too movement the other day, and it's one of those things where I'm like, if this was in the 90s, would the Me Too movement have been able to happen? And I think the answer is no, because we didn't have social media. Survivors didn't have a way to really connect with other people. It was harder to show the receipts. Now, like now you have it, and it breaks my fucking heart, but there are so many survivors of sexual assault who are showing, like, these are the DMs that I got from these people. These are the messages. These are the photos. These are the things. So it's now it's easier to show like how abusive the industry is. Whereas I think we just didn't have that kind of access. But where am I going with this? But I think it's getting better, but I think the fight is just as desperate as it's always been. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
The cast of Eternals was stacked. It was amazing. And honestly, the cast for me, even if they were checking a box, like, I'm here for it because those actors were phenomenal. And I also loved a person who used sign language to communicate. Like, finally we should be seeing that. Like, that's great.
She is a deaf actor.
Yeah.
Like, she is deaf.
Yeah.
A few of my friends actually went to college with her.
The cast was stacked of Eternals. The film had a lot of other fucking problems, I'll tell you that right now. But the cast was sublime.
That's dope to hear. I've heard really good things about it, so I need to check it out.
Yeah, and then let me know your thoughts, because I have heated ones.
Okay.
It seemed to me like it was just the kind of movie that it's one of those movies to me where it's like, we had this huge mountain of money, and we just needed to burn through it.
Got it. Okay.
That's how it felt a little bit to me.
Okay, so we're just going to throw everything we can into it. That makes sense.
But let me know your thoughts when you see it. Anyway, not my reco of the week.
Good to know. But yeah, I think in terms of casting, there's still a lot of room to be done, especially for people of, again, just anybody who is not like a straight white person, right? And I think I was thinking about this conversation we were going to have earlier today. And I saw on Instagram this post about, I believe on Instagram, the handle is Your Fat Friend. And she was talking about how the phrase, like, if someone, like, if a fat friend or, basically, if somebody who is not a straight size talks about, like, how difficult it is to just exist in the world, and someone's response is, oh, fuck the haters, do whatever you want, like, live your life, you're confident, do your thing. It's like, okay, I think that is coming out of like it's coming out of a place of love, but what often winds up happening is it doesn't acknowledge how fucked up it is that people have to just ignore the haters versus how about they stop being assholes, right? Like, and I think I was thinking about that in terms of acting. So I think, again, like, a lot of the times as a kid and as a teenager, I was playing adults because I was taller, but I was also bigger than everybody else. So it was easier to believe that I was an adult and not a teenager or not a child, which is gross for a lot of reasons. Like, I don't know. It's this weird thing where I'm like, just because a kid is tall doesn't mean they're an adult. Right? Like, that's not, they're still a kid. Kids come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. But Brianna of the B Word actually posted a reel that was really wonderful of, if you are a tall and or bigger actress and you go into a room for an audition, chances are the casting people are going to look at you and be like, oh, mommy, hello, mommy, sorry, mommy. You're going to play the mom role. I can't tell you how many times I've been somebody's mom in a scene, in a play. Like, I've lost count at this point. Because I guess being taller and bigger means you are more maternal or something.
What is that, bear psychology?
I guess. I don't fucking know, but it gets so frustrating, right? Because you want to play the love interest. You want to play you want to play the lead sometimes. And that's also, getting cast as the villain. Like, oh, you're going to be the mom, you're going to be the villain, or you're going to be the sassy best friend who is always single. Like, those are the roles you get to play, and you don't get to step out of that. And chances are they're going to be a nurse or a lawyer, maybe a teacher. Like, you get really confined very quickly. And I think that's why I love, like, Amy Bryant so much. But again, like, to be in those spaces, you have to fucking fight for it. It's like tooth and nail to make room for yourself and to push in and be like, look, I'm worthy of your attention. I'm worthy of, I have talent. I also deserve to be in this space. Why does it only ever get to be these thin people over here? And I know there was a lot of conversation around that, earlier this year, because a lot of actors from Broadway have gained weight over the quarantine because you're focused on fucking surviving, right? And so there was this conversation of like, are Broadway actors going to be forced to slim down so that way they can fit into their costumes again? And a lot of people were like, no, fucking just adjust the costumes. Like, it's not hard. So I think the conversation is happening more now. It's not happening as quickly as I would like, but I think it's such a struggle. And and that's only one category of like where casting and being an actor is so frustrating. I know people who have stopped acting because they had eating disorders, and they were like it's devastating. Like, it can be so devastating, and it can be really fucking hard. But yeah, so I think it's like, I think it's getting better too, because again, with social media, you have more access to make your own content and to sort of take control of the story and take control of that narrative. But it could absolutely be better. Yeah.
What is the most cutthroat thing you have ever witnessed someone do to get a job? An acting gig.
As an acting gig?
Secondhand stories I'll allow. Like, if your friend noticed something cutthroat or did something cutthroat.
I'm trying to.
Or if you did something cutthroat. You definitely carry against someone.
No, I didn't. I don't know if I'm sure there are things, but nothing is coming to my mind now. I feel like that's like such a kind of a stereotype of like, it's super, it can be, right? Like, it can be very like, it's not easy, but I don't think it's as, at least not in my world and not in my friend's world that I know of right now. I don't think it's as it's as cutthroat and ruthless. At least I hope not. I can't speak to film. Most of my friends have been in like TV commercials, on television or in theater. And those are, the thing about it too is like, here's if you're thinking about going into acting and you're like, I'll be cutthroat. Let me touch on that. So fucking don't. And here's why. It is a much smaller community than you think it is. It's fucking tiny. And yes, it's huge, and that there are a million people trying to do that thing. But once you start to really get involved in it, you find people. Like, I recently found out that one of my friends who did not, like, my friend James and my friend oh my god, my friend, not my friend, somebody that I went to let me backtrack. Okay, I recently found out that two of my friends that I was like, how the hell do they know each other? are friends, and it's all through theater, right? But like, I couldn't figure out how the connection happened. And it's like, oh, we did this random show 5 years ago for 2 days, and that's how we met. Like, that happens all of the time.
How many people are in the theater community? Give me a number. Give me an estimate number in LA.
It's huge. Like, it is
27.
No.
127.
Like 300 tops. No, it's huge. Like, I'm not saying like there aren't a lot of people. There are, but you just realize, like, people will talk about like, oh yeah, this actor that I really love that I saw in this play 3 years ago. And they're like, and the person you're talking to is like, oh yeah, I went to junior high with that person. They're wonderful. Like, all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? Like, it becomes this very tightly wound thing. So if you're going to be cutthroat about it and you're going to throw people under the bus, people will talk about you. People will be like, oh, that person's a fucking dick to work with. And it will become harder and harder for you to book jobs. It will become harder and harder for you to do projects because people aren't going to want to work with you. So by all means, be cutthroat if you want, but don't expect for it to work out for you in the end. That being said, there are A-list actors that we hear stories about, and we know they're fucking monsters. And for whatever reason, they keep getting cast and stuff. I will say, I think those people are the exception. And again, I think that those are the people that things are starting to come out about, and they're actively losing jobs because of it now, like later in their careers. So Mel Gibson is a perfectly good example, right? Like, those things will catch up with you in this community. So don't do it. But I'm sure that there are stories of people being absolute assholes. I thankfully don't have any, or don't know of any, or I've forgotten them.
Paint the picture for me. If your reality is different than that stereotype, what is the reality for you?
Yeah. So the reality for me personally is that I haven't been on stage in a really long time currently. I've been taking acting classes, but, you know, prior to the pandemic, and even through the pandemic, I was working a desk job because I was like, theater, there's not a whole lot of money there. Cool. And it was actually right before the pandemic, I had put in my notice at my old job to quit because I was like, fuck it, I'll start PAing. I will literally do whatever I can to be in acting and be in film. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, oh shit, I need a job. And so I got more entrenched in what I was doing. And so now it's like, I'm in this place where I'm like, oh, I can actually start to think ahead, because for the past year and a half, it's been like, just survive and just try to get through it, that trying to think about like, where do I go as an actor? How do I get back into it? Has been so overwhelming. But so for me, it's that, and it's taking classes, and it's doing helping friends film their shorts or their their TikToks or whatever, helping them film sketches, helping them write sketches, writing, and taking classes and plotting out like getting back into it for myself personally. For most people I know who are actors, I don't know anyone who's like on A-list. So not yet. Anyway, but for a lot of my friends, it's working for theater as like, I have a lot of friends who work in the arts education department. So they're working with kids. And they're acting, and they are part of a lot of community theaters. They're part of a lot of smaller theater companies. They go out and they audition as much as they can for commercials and for spots on television. Every now and then, maybe they're booking a small guest role on a TV show.
Was it Jose recently that got that big commercial?
Yeah. Jose was recently in a national commercial for McDonald's. And it's national in, I believe, Mexico, and it's airing on the US as well.
Get it.
Yeah. So,
Get it, Jose.
And those things happen. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep doing it. I have a lot of friends who are actors and also writers, and a lot of them make their money as writers for either television shows. Some of them are doing, like, helping coverage for films. So it's, for such a long time growing up, I thought like if you were an actor, that meant you were like a movie star. You were on the red carpet, right? A lot of actors in LA make their money through commercials, teaching classes. Voiceover is huge for a lot of people. Not so much theater. Theater's not really a place where you make a whole lot of money as an actor. Working a part-time or a full-time job in theaters or in the film industry, like as a side to the art that you create. You're sort of a jack of all trades if you're working in theater, or if you're working, like towards becoming an actor. A lot of friends who, yes, they work in bars and coffee shops or as a server because those jobs are super flexible. And because if most of your staff is if most of your bartending staff are also actors, they understand like, oh shit, Julia got a last minute audition. Yep. I'll cover your shift. Like, you go do your thing. So that's why so many actors are in those sort of like customer service or service jobs, is because there is a flexibility there. And also I know for a few of my friends, they're like, oh yeah, like I work those jobs because if I get fired for calling out too much, I know I can just turn around and get another one pretty easily because I am really good at being being a barista or a bartender. So it sort of like gives them this kind of freedom. And if they wind up getting a job in New York and now they need to move to New York, what does New York also have? Baristas and bartenders. Yeah. So those are booze. Yeah. So those are skills that they can literally move anywhere with.
Yeah.
So it's very, I think that like that life of you're a movie star and that's all you do is so outdated. And sure, maybe there are people that like they get to live that life, but even somebody like Chris Evans, right? Like he also directs, he also writes. Like even A-list actors are doing other things because there's so many other, all of those creative things feed into each other. I have a lot of friends who are actors, but they also hang lighting equipment and do lights and sound, or they do stagehand work too. It's sort of all over the place. And
everyone's just waiting for their shot.
Yeah, well,
waiting and that's for their shot.
And that's the thing with being an actor, and like it really is a marathon. It's absolutely not a race. And some advice that one of my acting teachers is given that I hold very close to my heart is like, don't look at the Chris Pines and the Emma Stones.
I will look at Chris Pine if I want to look at Chris Pine.
Look at
Emma
them.
Stone.
But like, don't keep picturing yourself next to them in film. Like, don't aim for that. Don't aim to like be in the next Marvel film. Not saying you'll never be in a Marvel film, but the reality is, look at the people next to you. Who are the people that you're taking classes with? Who are the people that you're doing shows with? Those are the people that you're going to come up with, right? Like,
yeah.
I think, like Judd Apatow and Seth Rogen are a perfect example, right? They met doing Freaks and Geeks fucking 25 years ago, and they still do shit together.
Are we not even going to mention the prime example of a dude that made it big and now literally just makes movies to take his friends to Hawaii and shit, Mr. Adam Sandler?
Oh, yeah. Like, that's the thing. Like, look at
the dream.
Look at the actors that you admire, and then look at, like, the people that they came up with. Okay. Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain, that whole him kissing her arm thing, and people lost their fucking mind. They went to high school together. Like, they've been
Juilliard, baby.
Yeah. Well, I think they also went to like high school together as well. Like, they've known each other.
They?
I think so. Don't quote me on that. But
Crazy.
they've been friends for fucking years. Like, they have known each other, so they have a level of comfort with each other. But look at them now. Like, look at the shit that they're doing. You can see a lot of that there are a lot of heavy hitters now who their co-stars are people that they went to school with, because that's how it works. Like, you come up as a group, and so that's why you want to keep working with those people, not just so that way you are like, now we're A-list actors, but those are the people you're going to make art with. Those are the people that you're going to support, that are going to support you. It's a community. It's not a competition with fucking anybody except yourself. So support each other, take care of each other. That's why I think the idea of being cutthroat will do you more damage than good. It will literally nosedive your career if you pull that kind of shit. Because there are a lot of people, I would say probably more now than before, who are like, I don't want that shit on my set. I'm not putting up with that shit. Here's the other thing, not to be a downer about it. You are replaceable. So, because there are so many people who want this, right? So the work ethic, the support, the community, the team player, your personality, what you bring to the table, outside of can you say these lines and can you hit your marks, is so important. Yeah. Being part of that community is really, really important. And sometimes that's the thing that gets you work. Like, I have been in situations where people will hit me up and be like, hey, are you free to do a student film? Hey, are you free to audition for this show or to do this thing? Like, that's how it works, because it's word of mouth, and it's people supporting other people. It's a fucking community. So don't be an asshole. Like, do not be an asshole if you're trying to be an actor. Just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not going to work out for you. So I think that is like my biggest thing with this. And the other part of that too is like, I think a lot of times when people are assholes about it, it's feeling like maybe you're not enough. I think it comes from a place of insecurity. Just know that you are, and it is hard, but I think that's why like making your own work is really important, because if you're not getting cast and stuff, it's so easy to be like, fuck, like I'm not good at this, I'm not worth anything. And that's when you can go, you know what, let me make my own thing, let me see how that does, even if it just fuels me and like keeps me going. That's really, really important too. Yeah. I could talk about this all fucking day. So.
Well, we're not going to let you, because you have to pick up Taylor after his major surgery that he had.
My buddy.
He's doing well. Yes?
Yes.
Excellent.
It's doing well.
Last word. You know what? I'll give you 5 words.
Oh,
you
dear.
Have 5 words. Last thoughts on anyone who is looking, or for anyone who is looking to jump into the fight and become an actor. 5 words. Last words to leave them with.
Can I have 6? I'm going to take 6.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. Get out of your own way.
Nope, that's 6.
Get out of your own way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That I feel like is good advice for life in general.
Yeah. It's one that I have had like repeated to me multiple times. Shout out to Ryan, my acting teach,er.
Right.
Yeah. I think he would die if anybody called him that.
I've called him that twice now. So listen here, Rai. If you ever want to be a guest and face me mano a mano, you know the hotline number, 707-892-0401.
You can call us up, Ryan. Yeah, but it's just that reminder of like, and it's something that I this year have really learned, because I have not been allowed to be in a theater for the past 18 months and I've missed it so much, is that listen, like whatever things people are telling you, like, you're so great, you can do this, like you could really do this and go far and really succeed. people don't say that kind of shit and not mean it. Like, I think especially when it comes to art, right? So hear it. And when your negative voice starts to be like, I don't know, like, they don't know that you didn't, like, learn your lines 6 months ago. You just learned them this week. Like, that
They
doesn't
don't need to know
matter.
that.
They don't need to know that. And it doesn't matter how long you've fucking known your lines. It doesn't matter. Are you present? Did you put in the work? Are you breathing? Are you paying attention to the other person, like, in the goddamn scene with you? Great. But listen to the things that people tell you, those positive things. They're saying it for a reason, and it's true. Accept that you are good at what you do or great at what you do, and hold that and know that it's true. So get out of your own way and accept your greatness and fucking get out there and kick ass. Like, that's, I think that phrase, get out of your own way, what that means to me is, like, understand your worth and embrace it. Don't run away from it. Don't be afraid of how good you are at the thing that you love. Ew.
Slap me with a Recco. Right in the face.
Right in the face. Oh my God.
Reccos.
Panic. Panic.
The week.
Reccos of the week. I remember my reco of the week. Totally unrelated to acting. It is a game. It is a game called Phase 10. It's a card game that I did not know existed. It's kind of like Uno, but more intense, and it will destroy friendships. But it's super fun. It's I got to play with my friends this weekend, and it's just so goofy, and it, like, the reason I really enjoyed it, or maybe just card games in general, because I played a bunch of card games last night as well, and it just had such a good time and laughed so hard, and I don't know, I think, like, for me, the Phase 10 in particular is, like, it brought out this sort of competitive edge in my friends. It was it's like a little part strategy, but mostly just sheer dumb luck. And there's just that, like, chaos factor that makes you really present with the people that you're with. And it becomes, like, less about the game and more about the people that you're playing it with. And it was just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
What's the premise?
Okay, so the premise of the game is that there are 10 levels, and each level has a different thing you're trying to accomplish. So you get 10 cards each round. And so, like, the first round is 2 sets of 3. So out of the 10 cards that you have, let's say you're trying to get a set of 3 4s and a set of 3 5s, right? And the first person to put those down, now the next part of the game is they're trying to get rid of the remaining cards in their hands, and there's a way that you do that. And then whoever gets rid of all of their cards first ends the round, and then whatever cards you have left in your hands, each card has a point value. So now you've got all of these points against you. Basically, like, the whole premise is you want to get through all 10 rounds with the fewest amount of points. But there are all of these, like, things that you have to do. Yeah. It's kind of a mess. Like, it's all over the place. So it's sort of like Uno.
Sounds like it.
It was really chaotic, but it's super fun. And I got to play with Bobby and our friend Lindsay, and it just, there was a moment that I think it was, like, one of the last rounds of the game that we were playing where Bobby, I think in one hand, like, wound up with, like, 140 points, which is not good. That's terrible. That's a terrible hand. And she was just like, cool, great, awesome.
Aww.
So it's very funny. It's like $5 from Target, called Phase 10. It's so fun. And it's just, like, I think especially now that we are allowed to, like, see people in real life again, it's a fun game to play at, like, somebody's house. If you're like, oh, I haven't seen these people in 6 months, I don't know what to say to them. Like, play some board games, play Phase 10, like, just get goofy with it. it's a good, I don't know, it's a good icebreaker that isn't like, if you were an ice cream, what kind of ice cream would you be? Like, I don't know. It's a very fun game.
What kind of ice cream would you be?
Probably mint chocolate chip. I don't know if that's true or not. I just love mint chip.
I also love mint chip, and that's what I thought at first. And then I was like, I'm definitely not a mint chip. Like, my personality is not a mint chip. My personality is Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
Is there Fruit Loops cereal? Is that a thing?
Oh,
That's
I'm
me.
sure there is. Look, Salt and Straw exists, so yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know what I would be. Coffee, maybe?
Ooh,
Again, I just really love coffee.
I could see that for you.
Okay.
I could see that for you.
With some fudge or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to say, because I'm bougie as fuck, I am cereal milk ice cream from Milk Bar.
Ooh. Okay. Have you had Pot of Gold from Salt and Straw?
No.
Ooh, girl.
What's
this
in
is very
it?
good.
We don't have Salt and Straw here. Thanks for rubbing it in.
You do have it. Hold on. I don't know if you have it in your area, but it is in the Bay Area. So if you're ever in SF, it is in SF. Like, it is absolutely
there.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Next time you're in
Gold.
LA, we'll go. So it's like, I think it's cake batter ice cream, or it tastes like cereal milk, but it is Lucky Charms, and it's just the marshmallows from Lucky Charms in the ice cream. And it is so good. It's so good. They usually only have it around March because it's Pot of Gold and they're after me Lucky Charms, I guess. St. Patrick's Day is where I'm getting at. But I think the Salt and Straw in downtown Disney has it year round because of fucking course they do. It's so good.
I just got tingly in places that I'm not allowed to talk about if we don't want to rate this episode E.
It's already going to be rated E because I think I
Have
said
we
fuck
cursed
like
already? Okay.
13 times, probably.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just assume we did, so I always mark everything E.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to keep this sticky, sweaty, dirty, delicious time going. My reco is You like that? You're welcome.
I was like, what pop star is she about to say?
Get fucking ready.
Okay.
My reco of the week is a film. I saw it yesterday at the 1:30 matinee because I am an 87-year-old woman in my soul.
Hell yeah.
And I really enjoyed not having to share my milk duds with anybody, let me tell you. Anyway, Last Night in Soho.
I've heard that's wonderful.
I'm talking Anya Taylor-Smith. I'm talking Matt Smith. All the Smiths.
So pointy.
I'm talking Sam Claflin. Like,
Ooh.
if you are into gorgeous fashion, a little bit of camp, but dark, sinister, greedy, like, is it supernatural? Is it psychological thriller? This is the movie for you. It kept me at the edge of my seat. Like, what is happening? I would say visually, you can watch it on mute for all I care. Visually, it is one of the most stunning films I've seen all year.
Wow.
Probably another stunning film that I saw was Dune. But anyway, Last Night in Soho, stunning, gorgeous. And it's like, I literally want to DM the director and be like, hey, this one scene, how the fuck did you do it? Because his transitions were better than anything I've seen on TikTok, which is, I understand for some people maybe a low bar, but audience, you know. There's one scene, and this isn't going to spoil anything, but there's one scene where Matt Smith is dancing with two characters, and the transitions between one character and another, like, Anya Taylor-Smith would exit the frame and then enter the frame on the other side as, like, the other actor. And the whole time, the camera does not stop looking at Matt Smith. And I'm like, continuity cannot be that good. Like, how the hell did they film this scene? So I want to DM the director, but I don't have the balls, but I want to DM him. Just like, hey, like, how the hell did you did you cut that scene? Did you shoot that scene? Like, what was happening?
Yeah.
And for those pondering, the director is Edgar Wright, who directed Scott Pilgrim, as well as, so visually it's going to be stunning.
Yeah.
As well as some of my personal favorite movies, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Nick Frost has, that's my body type. I'm very into a man of his shape.
Yep.
Anyway, I love a stocky dude. But Last Night in Soho, same director. So, it's witty, it's funny, it's dark, it's gritty, it's twisty, it's turny, it's sexy, it's slaps on all levels. Highly recommend. And also highly, highly recommend that you take a long lunch break this week. Like, pick a day, take a long lunch break, or just fucking leave work early, or take the day off. Like, do it. Take the day off. And no, I'm telling you, mental health day. Take it off. Because you probably are sitting there like, oh, I shouldn't. Take the fucking day off. You've been working hard. We are collectively towards the bottom of the spiral that's been ongoing for 2 years now. Take the day off. Go see a matinee. 1:30 in the afternoon. Like, treat yourself. Get all the snacks you've ever wanted. You don't have to share them with anybody. You don't have to share the theater with anybody. Very few people will go. And you feel like the A-lister that you are.
It's beautiful.
Highly recommend.
I love that. It's an experience.
That's all I got.
Yes. I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you.
We don't know how to end this episode anymore.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think we're just both tuckered out and excited to see Taylor.
I'm so excited. My little bean.
We're so happy you're alive, legs. Taylor.
I know. It's sick, for real.
Pour one out for Taylor's leg.
Will do. Sure.
As well as Alan Rickman.
Oh.
I mentally poured one out for him earlier when you said his name.
Yeah. I love him. All right, everybody.
Gone too soon.
For real. All right, everyone. Well, on that note, thank you so much for listening to this goofiness.
Do I? Hold on. Do I look like Alan Rickman?
Are you trying to be Professor Snape? Mr. Potter.
Or do I look like Farquaad?
I think you have more of a Lord Farquaad vibe going on.
You're welcome for the visual, and also video of this episode will be up. So you'll get to actually see what the fuck we look like.
Well,
talk to you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.